Today, in shared words, a new case of murder towards an Afro-descendant family murdered in the rural area of Cauca.
Okay, today we are joined by the following participant who will be discussing the above mentioned news item. Alexandra Rojas, Nicolas Ramirez, Juan Esteban Manrique, Winnie Vanessa, and me.
The today's stories is about Afro-descendant family murder in rural area of Cauca. A colored family that traveled the roads of Cauca sentenced their end when they invade a property belonging to ex-admiral Carlos Botero. On the morning of April 7, 2022, three bodies belonging to the same family were found in a rural area in the Cauca region. The area in particular is the village of Malparado, 86 meters away from Cali's urban area. The sector has been constantly permeated by violence and displacement of colored citizens who are unable to find decent housing or a comfortable area where they can progress and develop their lives. The surrounding communities report that every day one can observe the transit of black people looking for new destinations to exploit their skills and abilities. Many of these families pack up their few belongings and set off on the adventure of finding a new place that will provide them with security and prosperity, although the number of people who manage to do so is very small. Some of them sitting momentarily in farms and properties with or without authorization to spend the cold nights or the unused downpours.
The context and the situation with this population is incredible, especially considering that the Afro-Colombian communities represent about 10 million inhabitants and are found throughout the country. Health and safety laws don't guarantee for the Afro-descendant community despite the existing Colombian legislation and normative.
In most of these cases, the effects of the internal armed conflict have significantly marked the circumstances in which Afro-Colombian, Palenquero, and racial groups in Colombia currently live. Forced displacement as a consequence of violence against territories, communities, and leaders has weakened the organizational process of the Afro-Colombian population.
In this case of the Ordóñez family, the journalizing group of the UNA represented a deep and thorough investigation were the most relevant and disastrous facts of this recent calamity were exposed, the evidence colleged aloft, we said, in a creative way the last moments of the family before their death were the most alarming case of displacement and segregation of the black community were recounted. The scenario begins as a normal day in the black community displaced by violence, the Ordonez family. Farmers from the cradle and affected by the war are located in a care camp for the people mobilized by the war. Their down is not much appropriate since they wake up with the news the same day. April 6th, they will be evident to give shelter to a new personal that was approaching.
After receiving the news, a planned breakfast and a small map showing the roads to other concentration camps, they set off with a few items they still had. From the perspective of Diana, author of this diary that she invented from an old school book inherited by one of her parents, she recounts the crucial and empirical moments of her nomadism. She contextualizes her family as a group of peasants. Her father, Jose Ordóñez, 34 years old, dark-skinned, and a farmer by profession, leads his family on the road that promises new opportunities and stability. Her mother, Maria de Ordóñez, 26, also of African descent and attached to her husband and daughter, closely follows her husband's movements and decisions, accompanying him on his journey to a dreamland. Finally, Diana, a 13-year-old preteen girl who was currently in the fourth grade of elementary school at her advanced age and who depended on 100% on her parents to continue her studies, which had been paused because of the movement.
Their last residence had been the violence refugee camp located in the municipality of Kokoro, where they had been staying for a while while they searched for a new beginning, a place to live. Their plans to stay there were set for 2 weeks, but were interrupted when they were notified by the authorities that on the afternoon their last day they were to vacate. Sequentially, their occasions were not delayed by the shock of the news, but rather promote the spirit of movement that has long accompanied them. Around 9 a.m., the family set out for the city of Cali, which was about 95 kilometers away by national highway. But due to the constant threats and roadblocks from the armed groups, the family decided to take the rural roads, which was about 56 kilometers away, but had very dangerous passages and cliffs.
The mobilization of the family began with their belongings on their shoulders and boots and jackets they protected them from nature and its thickness. Under a not overwhelming sun and a reliably pleasant climate, the family embarks on the wild road that leads to their new beginning in the capital. Paying literally, the Ordonez did not understand the causes of the region, did not understand why we should be constantly moving from their state if the little he knew of the law and the rules of his house was that he should be protected by the state. On the contrary, he only found himself as a victim of a set of violences of criminal law, and they were the fruit of a political and social war.
The day is long, laborious, and demanding. Mr. Ordonez's effort to open space in his path must be constantly involved, as well as exposing himself to the risk of crossing first to test the safety of the trip. Throughout the day, the fatigue increases and the distance doesn't seem to shorten, resulting in several stops to rest and try snacks of the little food they have left. The night is approaching, the sunset is getting brighter, and the light is dimmer, making it difficult to observe the path and analyze its passage. As the night merges with the day, the family's concern grows, as they find themselves in the middle of nowhere and with little to protect them. Following the same course, the family sights in an area in the distance. They manage to recognize a small tool shed in a farmhouse a few meters up the road. Under the silence and darkness of the forest, the family chooses to enter cautiously, while a passive rain begins to fall, which will later turn into a heavy storm.
The fort belongs to ex-Admiral Carlos Botero, a Caucasian man who had finished his time in the Colombian Naval Forces, where he had belonged to Reserve and Territorial Defense Group. Located in the village of Malparado, Mr. Botero owns an agricultural farm that is mainly used for the cultivation of coffee and coca leaf and which is under the supervision of a group of workers. Also, the man always tries to go on inspection tours of his farm.
A physical and social description of the subject exposes a rigid and military facade bothered in part by the atrocities of war and armed conflict. His skills relate to handling and manipulation of weapons as well as hand-to-hand combat. His mentality is straight and square, espousing canonical and sanctimonious values. It includes racist and exclusionary behavior, in addition to promoting segregationist movements to exclude communities as well as black codes that have not been enforced for several years. These acts have created fame on Botero's name and relate him to the breaking of ethical and moral rules. On several occasions, Mr. Botero is known to have broken the codes of conduct established by national law and has generated conflict due to his personal principles. His name has been under many investigations of different types and mainly focused on the segregation of communities and cases of anti-monopolization of land. The story continues under the watchful eye of Diana, our young author who has allowed us to see her circumstances through her eyes. The sound of rain, the tameness of the barn, and its weak frame only promote the fear of an imminent escape, since they knew what rules of the law they had broken.
Wearing a pair of Mars boots, an old jacket, an umbrella, and a showering slung over his shoulder, Mr. Carlos decided to make his routine inspection. He's accompanied by two Farim Kennies that refuse to go out in the rain, but bright by above they are instructed to accompany their master. At around 12, they begins the inspection of the farm's facilities and warehouse, going first to the barn where the animals live. After checking that their neat beds and stables are dried, he prepares to cross the slaughterhouse area. It is here that Don Carlos takes his time as he looks careful to make sure that all his times are there and that no knife has been lost or misplaced. As he was checking the gates, he noticed that he was missing two knives and as his ops he counted to check his farm and corrals.
He checks the septic tanks, the common baths, and the nervy kitchens and residence, left in the toolbar for his last moment. His faithful companions start sniffing around the little house and breaking inside. This alerts the owner of the property and he takes his shotgun in his hands before opening the wooden door. The family legend inside the bar fighted for their lives. Hidden behind a wall, they tried to remain calm while poor Diana felt like she was drowning in. There's blood receding her mouth so that the dogs would not notice her. The mother among her prayers asked the canon and also the good to invoke a rescue light that would illuminate or drive the men which they gone away from the cabin and prevent any bad deed he might commit. The man called his dogs and sent them away, proceeded to open the door cautiously and to inspect the place with caution and discretion while the family recite their prayers so as not to be discovered.
However, the owner, without any words, wielded his gun when he recognized Diana's curly black hair, who was grabbed by the arm and pulled by the admiral to make the other two men leave. Diana's parents came out of hiding and began to beg for forgiveness from the farmer, who, upon seeing the frightened girl and the two black parents, decide to kill them, suspicious of the invasion. He shoots each of them and stacks the bodies in order to move them to the side of the road.
He proceeds to perform a mediocre burial and to throw away the items of this family, not counting that with this careless cover-up of the crime. He will be investigated for breaking the system of rules, especially Law 1482 of 2011, which amended the penal code and established other provisions. The law case has caused a stir and has taken relevance due to the participation of a minor girl among the victims. The case has had the participation of Black communities, biblical groups, priests, and ex-combatants.
The investigation is being carried out in the city of Cali, and Mr. Botero has been transferred to a preventive facility for criminals who belong to the armed force. We are waiting the decision of the court and a sanction that strongly penalizes Mr. Botero and his decision.
That's all for today. We thank the listeners for listening to us in this new episode. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.